You press your cheek against the cold synthetic stock of your rifle. The damp earth smells like rotting leaves and ancient pine needles. Raindrops freeze before they hit the back of your bare neck. You force your lungs to expand slowly to control your racing heartbeat. This marks the first brutal step of a long and violent journey. You start at the very bottom of the infantry tactical hierarchy. Every level requires more sacrifice and demands absolute perfection from your mind. You will evolve from a simple rifleman into an invisible ghost. The journey begins with the basic role of a designated marksman. You march with an infantry squad through the blazing heat of a desert valley. Sand grinds between your teeth and clogs the pores of your skin. Your rifle is slightly longer and features a magnified optic for extended ranges. The squad leader relies on you to extend the reach of their standard weapons. You are not a true sniper yet, but you carry a heavier burden. A sudden crack echoes through the canyon, and dirt kicks up near your boots. Enemy fighters engage your squad from a rocky ridge 600 meters away. The squad leader screams for suppressive fire while you drop to a knee. You find a stable position against a crumbling stone wall. You scan the distant ridgeline through the reticle of your scope. Heat mirage ripples across the valley floor and distorts your vision. You spot a muzzle flash hiding deep within the dark shadows of a cave. You must calculate the distance rapidly using the stadia lines in your optic. The target measures a specific height against the markings in your crosshairs. You dial the elevation turret on your scope to compensate for bullet drop. Wind blows steadily from the left and carries the scent of dry sagebrush. You shift your crosshairs slightly to the right to counteract the invisible force. Your finger finds the trigger and takes up the initial slack. You exhale half a breath and pause your lungs at their natural resting point. Your heartbeat thumps loudly in your ears and moves the crosshairs slightly. You time your trigger squeeze between the rhythmic beats of your heart. The rifle recoils violently against your shoulder and disrupts your sight picture. Burnt gunpowder stings your nostrils as the empty brass casing ejects into the dirt. You recover instantly and look through the optic to observe the distant impact. A puff of dust blooms directly inside the dark mouth of the cave. The enemy fire ceases immediately and your squad maneuvers safely forward. You have proven your worth and earned a ticket to the Scout Sniper School. The transition strips away your identity and forces you to rebuild from nothing. You crawl through a muddy swamp wearing a heavy suit covered in burlap strands. The ghillie suit traps your body heat and makes you sweat profusely. You must remain completely undetected while moving across an open field. Instructors scan the tall grass with powerful binoculars and thermal imaging devices. You drag your body forward one agonizing inch at a time. Thorny vines tear at your exposed hands, and insects bite your face relentlessly. You cannot swat the mosquitoes because sudden movement equals instant failure. The pain tests your mental endurance and forces you to detach from your physical body. You become a lifeless log rotting quietly in the stagnant water. A heavy combat boot steps within inches of your head as an instructor walks past. You hold your breath until your lungs burn with an intense fire. The instructor moves away and you continue your agonizing crawl toward the objective. Graduation elevates you to the rank of a qualified scout sniper. You deploy to a hostile jungle environment with a trusted spotter. You operate miles ahead of friendly lines with zero support and minimal supplies. The dense foliage blocks out the sun and traps the stifling humidity. You construct a hidden observation post beneath the thick roots of a massive tree. You cut away small branches to create a tiny loophole for your rifle barrel. The spotter sets up a high-powered spotting scope to scan the village below. You settle into a firing position and prepare for a grueling wait. Time loses its meaning as the hours stretch into agonizing days. You urinate into a plastic bottle and force yourself to eat cold rations. Sleep comes only in short bursts while your partner watches the objective. Your muscles cramp and your joints ache from the awkward prone position. You ignore the physical decay because the mission demands total concentration. The spotter taps your shoulder gently to signal enemy movement in the compound. You open your eyes and press your face back into the rifle stock. A high-value target emerges from a heavily guarded building in the village. The distance is 900 meters across a steep jungle valley. The spotter reads the environmental conditions using a handheld weather meter. The air density and barometric pressure will significantly alter the flight path. The spotter calls out the precise elevation and windage adjustments for your scope. You dial the turrets without looking away from the target. The target steps into a clearing and pauses to light a cigarette. You visualize the parabolic arc the bullet will travel through the humid air. The bullet must crest high above the valley before dropping perfectly onto the mark. You stroke the trigger and send the heavy projectile downrange. The rifle barks and the recoil pushes you backward into the mud. The spotter watches the vapor trail cut a path through the humid air. The flight time lasts nearly 2 full seconds before the bullet strikes. The target drops instantly before the sound of the gunshot even reaches the village. Chaos erupts in the compound as guards run blindly in every direction. You pull your rifle back through the loophole and begin the extraction process. You must evade angry patrols for 3 days before reaching the extraction point. The success of the mission catches the attention of elite commanders. You receive an invitation to join the highest tier of special operations. You undergo a selection process designed to break the strongest soldiers. You learn advanced ballistics and master a variety of exotic weapon systems. You conduct training operations in extreme environments around the globe. You jump out of airplanes at night and swim miles through freezing oceans. Your skills surpass conventional warfare and enter the realm of pure tactical science. You deploy to an urban war zone embedded with a strike team. You fly through the pitch-black sky in a stealth helicopter. You wear panoramic night vision goggles that paint the world in a glowing green light. The helicopter flares above a skyscraper, and you fast rope onto the roof. The wind howls violently across the concrete surface and chills your bones. You secure a firing position on the ledge of the towering structure. You look down into the city streets far below your elevated perch. The target building sits 3 blocks away and houses a terrorist cell. The assault team breaches the lower floor and begins clearing the structure. Your job is to eliminate threats attempting to flee or ambush the team. You use a heavy caliber rifle equipped with an advanced thermal optic. The thermal sensor highlights human body heat against the cold concrete walls. You see an enemy fighter dragging a heavy machine gun onto a balcony. The angle is extreme and requires a complex trigonometric calculation to hit the mark. Gravity affects the bullet differently when shooting at a steep downward angle. You mentally adjust your hold to compensate for the geometric distortion. You fire a massive armor-piercing round that shatters the silence of the night. The bullet smashes through the cinderblock wall before striking the enemy fighter. The kinetic energy obliterates the threat and neutralizes the ambush instantly. You rack the bolt and chamber another massive round in a fraction of a second. You track another fighter sprinting across an adjacent rooftop. You lead the moving target by estimating his speed and the bullet flight time. You fire again and watch the thermal signature drop motionless onto the roof. The assault team completes their objective and calls for immediate extraction. You pack your gear rapidly and disappear into the shadows of the skyscraper. You are a phantom that dictates the flow of battle from above. Your mastery elevates you to the final tier of sniper operations. You are no longer just a shooter, but a strategic asset for the nation. You operate entirely alone in denied territories where capture means certain death. The government will disavow your existence if you are compromised. You infiltrate a hostile capital city wearing civilian clothes and carrying a disguised case. You secure an apartment overlooking a massive public square. You spend a week preparing the room to serve as an undetectable sniper hide. You pull the furniture away from the windows and hang heavy mesh screens. You set up a tripod deep inside the room to hide the muzzle flash. You construct a suppressed rifle piece by piece in the dim light of the apartment. The weapon is an engineering marvel designed for absolute precision and total silence. You load custom ammunition hand-loaded to match the exact tolerances of your barrel. The target is a rogue general plotting a devastating global conflict. The general will appear on a distant balcony for only a brief moment. You calculate the spin drift caused by the rifling of your barrel. You account for the Coriolis effect generated by the rotation of the Earth. You measure the ambient temperature of the room versus the cold air outside. You map out invisible wind currents funneling between the towering skyscrapers. Every mathematical variable must align perfectly to guarantee a catastrophic impact. You sit motionless in the dark room for 3 agonizing days. Your mind separates from the physical world and enters a state of pure zen. The target finally steps out onto the balcony surrounded by armored guards. You align the crosshairs with the precise center of his skull. You tune out the sounds of the city traffic roaring far below. You lower your heart rate to an impossibly slow rhythm. The space between your heartbeats feels like an eternity of silence, You apply exactly 2 pounds of pressure to the match-grade trigger. The firing pin strikes the primer and ignites the specialized powder. The suppressed rifle emits a mechanical click followed by a muted hiss. The heavy bullet slips through the open window without disturbing the mesh screen. The projectile glides over the crowded plaza entirely unnoticed by the masses. The general collapses suddenly, and the guards scramble in total confusion. The sound of the gunshot never arrives to explain the sudden violence. You disassemble the rifle methodically and pack the components into the case. You wipe down every surface in the apartment to erase your forensic presence. You walk out the front door and blend seamlessly into the crowded city streets. The history of the world changes course because of your invisible intervention. You walk toward the extraction point carrying the immense weight of taking a life. The philosophical burden of the sniper settles heavily upon your soul. You recognize that ultimate power resides in the shadows and the silence. You have climbed the mountain of lethal mastery and stand entirely alone. The ghost you have become leaves no footprints on the battlefield. You understand that true perfection means you were never really there at all.